Morning, everyone. Welcome to the huddle. I would like to draw your attention to Sean's attire right now. Our first clothing piece of attire merchandise.
Oh, that's double brand
Double
placement
branding.
right there.
He's
I
got
like
a
it. It's a good
vest.
look, Sean.
Thank you.
Our
Just to
logo pops well.
It does. It does. It actually, yeah. So just so everyone's clear, it doesn't try to go to LL Bean and figure out where you can get this. I just went on Etsy, my favorite place, and had them make these patches. And now I'm just taking a what are these things called? Oh my God.
I was going to say, how did you get it on? Did you sew it on or what do you do?
No, it's a safety pin. Let's be clear. Like,
oh.
You know, when Sean's watching the Patriots, he crochets, he stitches on patches. Yeah, it's just how he
never know.
Works it out a little bit.
Yeah, start with Mahjong, and then I move on to some knitting.
So if any clothing companies, no names, want to sponsor, to have a partnership with the Huddle, we are,
we're open
follow up. Rachel, you look like you might be going to Club Davos today here. I like it. It's a nice...
The off the shoulder.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was a little like, should I...
Is it velvet?
It's early morning.
Velvet. It's warm.
Right. I told you we need velvet tracksuits.
I could definitely get on board with partying in the Swiss Alps with a bunch of billionaires. I think that sounds pretty fun. But alas, here we are.
You just have to run for office, Rachel.
I will tell you, like, I it's been 20 years, but we like those parties. I don't know what they are now because it's solid 20 years. But like, I remember being in awe and being like, this is insane. Like the idea of like the amount of money that they throw, like the parting gift at different events was more than like, a
What do you think swag bag is worth more? The Oscars or
hands
Davos?
Down.
What?
Hands down Oscars, because there's too many people that go to Davos that have some kind of ethics restriction.
Not anymore, Sean. Come on.
Oh yeah, good point.
I would like to go to either. Let's be honest.
Funny story that when I opened the Emmys in 2017, and I was like, oh, cool. But they brought me in a back door, and then like it was a surprise. And I'm like, at the end, I'm like, hey, where's my swag bag? Like, I'm like,
they're like, no, you don't get one.
Yeah.
Some other sort of lighthearted news, maybe not lighthearted news, but fun news. There is clearly a baby boom happening right now at the White House. Usha Vance announced that she and the vice president are expecting their fourth baby in July.
Awesome.
So yeah, I mean, this is what, number 3 in terms of announcements that we've heard in the past couple of weeks. No, not in terms of kids. I know this will be their 4th child, but Katie Miller is also pregnant. Caroline Leavitt is also pregnant. So clearly, I mean,
look, they're feeling good. They've had a good year. Speaking of partying,
it'll be interesting. You know what? It will be interesting to if we dial back the timing. Like, so I know.
Don't go there.
No, but was there like some event where everybody was fired up and like was equally excited?
Maybe the state dinner in England, like, everyone white tie, maybe, who knows?
I tweeted about this yesterday, but when this news came out, I was thinking back to Meghan McCain's interview with Usha. She talked about how, like, even though they have 3 kids, very little kids, and they're have this very difficult job, like, they don't ever allow screen time. Like, even on a plane, when the kids are like, you're trying to keep them from screaming and from like, running into the aisle, like they just don't do screen time. And I remember thinking, oh, I need to do that more. Like, I feel like a terrible mother listening to this. So,
I think what's remarkable is, I speaking of like putting stuff on X, I asked the question, like, who was the last VP or sitting president to have a child in office? I assumed it was going to be a pretty black and white answer. It appears it is not. There, it sounds like JFK, lost a child and may have technically, had a child while in office. Well, not technically, but for a few days. But then I saw Grover Cleveland was what somebody threw out. But Sean, you've got new reporting here.
It's funny to your point. Like, I thought this is an easy answer on vice presidents. There are some that say that he will be the first sitting vice president to have a child in office because there was someone who was pregnant while in office and the child was born after. But Politico reporting that, at least in Playbook, that he'll be the second
Ulysses Grant's VP.
Fox saying that it's the first. I just, again, I will say there's a limit to the rabbit holes I'll go down to find out like random, like non-germane facts, and this is probably one of them.
See, if we had Instagram 200 years ago, this would be a settled issue. But you know.
All right, guys. Well, let's jump in. So today's 5. We're going to talk.
By the way, put it in the chat if you know the answer. Put it onto our YouTube channel. Go onto our YouTube channel at the DC Huddle, and we'll. I want to like maybe we give you. I'll send you this. I tell you what. Here's the deal. If we can settle this and you're right, I'll send you a Huddle mug.
The first person.
Hey, all right.
There you go. This should be like, we should be able to find this out. I mean, like, you know.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I want proof. I don't want you just to say it. Like, I'm telling you, there's conflicting things. So give us an answer.
Like birth certificates. Yeah.
Right.
That's okay. Yep. Okay.
Just before we jump in, guys, follow us at the DC Huddle on YouTube and sign up at thedchuddle.com if you're not on our email list. Today, we're going to talk about the Greenland latest, of course, what's going on with Davos. Mark Carney from Canada. Basically thumbing his nose at the president. So we'll discuss that. We have the Minnesota latest, the FBI going after Democratic leaders in the state, and this big question here in Washington that Democrats are scrambling with, whether to vote for ICE funding. Halligan, the U.S. attorney, or interim U.S. attorney, I should say, is officially out. Yes, former. And there's a question of, you know, was she ever really? I guess this is the question. Senator Grassley, giving an apparent thumbs down to the SAVE Act, a big priority for Republicans. So we'll discuss that. And then we'll talk about some Senate midterm news that we should just flag in terms of being aware of what's going on. But first, let's look at the day book. The president, he should be going on any minute if he's not on right now, guys. In Davos, delivering his remarks. He was 3 hours late at one point because there were electrical issues on Air Force One. They had to turn around, switch planes. That's number one. That's terrifying to me because I'm terrified of flying just in general. Really? But number two, it puts a new light on that Qatari jet that everybody was talking about a few months ago. These planes apparently are 35 years old.
No, the 47s are 45 years old. Yeah. The 47s are 45.
Well, and there's 2 of them, and that's why they've been talking about this for. I mean, don't forget the Saudi or the Qatari plane or whatever it is. We have been in the process of building 2, or Boeing has 2 new air so far behind because of all the technological safety measures that keep getting added and trying to, you know, make it all work from an aerodynamic standpoint. But they've been trying to replace them for a while.
In fact, the first term is when I was part of the, you know, briefing process when we signed off on the first 2 planes from Boeing. They were used. Actually, the president got them to drop somebody, well, without getting into details, there was a buyer that couldn't come through on the 247s. So we got a killer deal on these things, even though they were still in production. But because the buyer bailed on them, the United States got a pretty sweet deal on them. And then obviously the third one would be this Qatari one that will come into service and then pull out for the president's library. But I got to tell you this, like, I know this is somewhat of a, like, just a, you know, one-off cute story. Going overseas with the president of the United States and not having the big plane. And that's what the other thing is, there's 2 47s.
Yeah.
So I'm fascinated why they threw the 37. They pulled them back and then put them on the 37, not the 47. Which is sort of, to me, interesting because both would fly at the same time generally. And so the staff goes on the second, like the majority of support staff will go on the backup plane, right, which is identical, right? So I'm just wondering if they sent that one, continued it forward, brought him back, put him on the 37. 2 things that are fascinating about that. One, you got to kick some people off the plane. It's a smaller plane. Number 2, when you're going overseas overnight, the president's cabin on the larger plane is a full bedroom and you can rest and sleep. Not that he does a ton of that, but and for the staff, it's a lot more roomy too. On the 37, that's not like you're sitting around in a conference room. And I just wonder, like, getting off a plane overnight, there's a shower in the big one. I don't know if there's a shower in the smaller one, but like, my point is, like, getting overseas and then having to give a big speech, you're a little cranky.
And not only that, but he didn't sleep much the night before, right? Wasn't it the
2
night before
a.m.
that
and
he
then
got
did
it?
an hour.
Correct. Yeah, he left
Yeah.
the game. And
That's going to get to one of the topic I want to get to, when we discuss all that. And that is sort of what kind of mood he will be and when he talks to a lot of these world leaders. Okay, so speaking right now, after this, the president's going to be meeting with other foreign leaders. They'll talk Greenland. They'll talk Board of Peace.
I think he
regarding
just
Gaza.
started speaking now, by the way. I'm seeing
Yeah,
news alerts
we're
pop
seeing
up.
some. I'm seeing some
Yeah,
comments
he's
in
just
here that he's
starting.
starting. Yep.
So we'll see if anybody, if he on our lean, mean budget here, anyone hears news, put it in the chat. Let us know. We'll jump in. But
we'll keep our
we're going to
our phones
crowdsource
close
monitoring
here,
Yep.
depending on if he's breaking news. In this speech, at one point, it was framed to be about economic issues in the U.S.
Affordable housing in the U.S.
Here's a bet. Will he mention affordable housing at all?
Yes, he'll mention it.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe for a second.
And then
And then later today, he's going to be sitting down with CNBC and also some business leaders as well. So we'll be obviously tracking those headlines here in Washington. Republicans and Democrats have their morning huddles, and will be giving their press conferences. Big question here in Washington is the ICE funding and what's going to happen with that. So we'll get to that. What else here do we have? Oh, yes. The Supreme Court is hearing oral arguments today about whether Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook can be removed. And sitting in that audience, none other than the one and only Jerome Powell, who is fresh off his sort of, sick burn of the administration, getting them to sort of retreat when they announced this big criminal investigation into him because of all the blowback that the administration saw. He's obviously there to support Lisa Cook. Do we
think there is a Truth Social post today regarding Powell's presence? I vote yes, particularly because he's cranky. I don't think that will sit well with Trump.
But he's so busy right now. I think he's got other things on his mind.
Come on, social media is at your fingertips. He has to be just going nuts over this.
Quick word: Will the court rule against or with the administration?
Administration.
I believe administration. Although this is one where I believe that there's a possibility that it's a split decision in that they say you can fire her, but you need to go through the process of giving her notification.
That's exactly what I think they'll do.
Yeah. So they're going to say he has the authority to do it because the statute says cause.
Right.
So they're going to say you need to treat it like a normal HR situation where you need to give her notice.
Investigate it, right? Like at this point, it's just an allegation that hadn't been linked with.
And that's my understanding from somebody who's very familiar with this case. I'll just leave it at that. That the biggest mistake the administration made was it, just like in an HR case, the person accused is given a chance to rebut the allegations, and then you have a process to then make a determination. The administration in this instance jumped it, never went through it, and that is a hiccup, but it's just a hiccup. The bottom line is they will rule. He has the right. Hello, Spicer versus Biden, and go forward.
Yeah, the thing that's interesting to me is this is where I think the Supreme Court wants to be, seen as less political because, as you guys know, like if you're a at-will employee in a right-to-work state, there's no process that you have to be given. Your boss can come in and say, "We think you're rude to employees. We don't like what you're wearing to work, and you're fired." Like that you may not like it. It's not criminal, but that's cause, and that's an employer's right. I don't, but I do think the court doesn't want to look like they're giving the president too much, and they're going to say, "Well, we think this, and here is how we think you should have done it," and so that's where I think it ends up. But he has the right to do it, and they'll just say, "Go through a better process."
Well, we will be watching closely. Okay, guys, before we jump in, let's do a quick note from our sponsors. I will start. Once again, question for you. What if your only New Year's resolution was to just get better sleep? Imagine how much more energy you'd have. You'd handle stress better. Pretty much all your goals would be easier, whether you're the president trying to take over Greenland or Dan debating Sean on our show, The Huddle. That's why you should start 2026 the smart way with CBD from CB Distillery. Over 90% of CBD customers say they sleep better with CBD, and that's tough to beat when you think about it because you sleep better, everything's easier. And CB Distillery has options for more than just sleep. You can get something for stress relief, for mood, or for pain after your workout. They say the creams for muscles and joints are really great. Everyone is raving about them. And you can shop by benefit, so it's easy to find what you're looking for. But of course, we should specify that product availability depends on your individual state and the regulations therein. Everything from CB Distillery is premium quality, third-party tested, and free of artificial dyes and fillers. And they have over 2 million happy customers and 100% money back guarantee if you're not satisfied. So if you're ready to start the year right and sleep well, go to cbdistillery.com, use my code HUDDLE for 25% off. That's cbdistillery.com, code HUDDLE, cbdistillery.com.
Yeah, once you fall asleep, Dan said it the other night, get those pajamas on, get comfortable, because that's the way to go. Dan, you noted it. You don't have the right pajamas. And you know who's got great pajamas, Dan?
I do. Cozy Earth. And by the way, if you're in the Northeast, it is going to snow this weekend. We're going to have a blizzard. Like, there is nothing better when there's a huge snowstorm than being in your pajamas for, let's face it, almost the entire day. You want that blanket if your kids are out and they're sledding, they're out playing in the snow. They come in, they're cold. You wrap them in the bubble blanket, give them a little maybe hot chocolate or something, maybe a hot toddy. Everyone's happy. Everyone's a winner. But Cozy Earth, their products are phenomenal. Sean and I are not joking when we say this. In both our families, they are huge, huge winners. People enjoy it, and I think you will too. So go to cozyearth.com, use the code HUDDLE, and go nuts.
I was at my son's basketball game last night, and a parent came up to me and said, you wearing any of the Cozy Earth today? So that's the greatest compliment you get when you know that people think you wear it so often that they'll come up to you in public and say it. So yeah, go to cozyearth.com, use code HUDDLE for 20% off site-wide.
Thanks to both of our sponsors. All right, let's talk about Mark Carney and the coal mine here and the cost of the divorce. We're talking about Davos and Greenland. So a big question on a lot of these world leaders' minds right now, as President Trump is speaking, and they're going to be talking to him later on, is, which President Trump is going to show up here? There was some writing about this overnight last night. Is it going to be the president who will literally threaten Colombia one day and then the next day have a great call with him and praise the guy? Or is it the president who makes a threat? If you don't follow through, you're going to get Maduro'd. Which president is it going to be? Sean, I mean, despite complaining about a lot of, Europe and these European countries, he does have good relationships with some of these people, right? And what are you expecting in terms of his mood? I know you mentioned that the plane is probably going to piss him off.
I will say it depends on, because look, I'd be pissed if I got on that plane and found out 45 minutes in, I got to turn around. That I'd be upset. So I could see him being pissed and cranky. So that's not helpful if you're a world leader when you get off that plane. And you mentioned the night before he got back at 2 a.m. from the college football national championships. He did a 94-minute stem winder press conference yesterday. There's a point at which, you're cranky. I get cranky after doing the show. So look, that's number one. Number two is the key word you use there is some. And so you've got all these world leaders, all these foreign ministers, all these pundits, media types, CEOs and foreign leaders. And so let's just say 4 out of 10 are going to be great friends and supporters and 6 out of 10 aren't. Something's going to set them off. And the odds are not in the favor of the European leaders in terms of who's around him, who's saying something. He's going to tee off on somebody or someone's going to tee off on him and he'll react.
Speaking of setting him off, we know that if there's one thing he doesn't like, it's to be slighted. And, you had Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney basically use his speech to chide the U.S. He didn't, call the president out by name, but he basically said the world order right now, as we know it is, or we used to know it, is dead. He said that we now live in a world where powerful nations are abandoning, their diplomatic traditions and just pursuing their own interests. And it sounds like he's leaving without meeting with the president at all. Dan, react to what he said. Do you expect other world leaders to take this kind of tact, or are they going to be more kissing the ring / kissing ass?
Well, I mean, look, it's an open question because you had I think it was the president or prime minister of Belgium basically saying at some point you have to have some self-worth and stand up and you can't just keep getting treated like this. And of course, the irony is, the Trump administration would say, look, that's what we're doing, right? I mean, Sean has made this point. I think the big thing here with Trump that I'm going to be really fascinated about is we've talked about this for a while. In a vacuum, Trump is right? Greenland has a strategic importance as the ice caps melt, as there's this race for rare earth minerals. And from a military standpoint, access to the North Pole for submarines and everything if there's a global conflict. The question is, has he gone too far in his tactics? Because you sense that the Europeans are like, that's it. You've hit us around so many times, whether it's on tariffs or our budgets. Let's go back to J.D. Vance's speech in March of to start off, when he basically said, you guys need to change how you operate on multiple levels. And the financial markets, which have kind of been, to be candid, this taco trade of like, they don't really think Trump is serious on a lot of stuff. So the markets have kept going up, kind of said yesterday and Monday, whoa, no, we're not okay with this, but they still kind of think he'll back off. So I think the question is, does Trump try to declare victory? We've always asked, what is the deal? What is the deal that he will get to say, this was worth it, and the United States has benefited from all of my actions, the art of the deal? I think he knows that he might have gone a little bit too far. But the question is, he's certainly not going to back down entirely, but he's the master at saying, I won.
Well, not just that,
that's right, Sean. Do you think he thinks he got over his skis a little bit on this?
I've never known him to actually think that. Like he doesn't, and if he does, it's in his head and never shared with anyone else. But I do think that if you go back to, like, we used the NATO example for a moment, everybody was appalled at how he was deriding our allies, and then they came up to 2%, and everyone said, like, wow, he got what he wanted, and this is a better deal. Then he got 5%, and they said this is a better deal. At some point, you know, I think he looks at it like, these are tactics to get me where I want to go. And once we get a deal with Greenland, you're all going to say, hey, it's actually not a bad thing. And we'll forget the process that it took to get here. I think that's probably more of the thinking.
They've got to be feeling, the domestic pressure at least a little bit. Because, I mean, like Chief of Staff Susie Wiles, we were just texting about this on the thread before the show. She told the pool shortly before they landed, that the president was going to be traveling Tuesday to Iowa for an economic energy focused speech and will make weekly travel around the country ahead of the midterms. I mean, this shows that, look, they know some people are not happy that they're going to Davos, that they've been talking about foreign policy a lot, and they know they have to pivot back domestically. Right, John?
Yeah, that's part of it. And I think the second, I mean, we did this in the first term. He wants to get out. The bubble kills him. Yeah. He wants to feed off the crowd. Yeah. He wants to be out there. So I think part of it is him. He wants to get outside of DC. He does not like sitting around the White House. So it's a little bit of everything. It's, great. You get outside, you help these guys raise a ton of money. You keep engaged in maintaining the majority, and you get outside the bubble. So I think it's a win-win.
And I would not look past where he's going, which is Iowa. There was an announcement, I think it was early this week or end of last week, that the Chinese have fulfilled their obligation for year one. I think it is to buy soybeans. Now, this goes to what we've been saying. There's some good news they have to trumpet that is not even buried. It just almost doesn't exist because of all this stuff we're talking about. Two, there are grumblings that there are major political problems for Republicans in Iowa. There are House races there that DCCC is targeting. That Senate race is kind of a slightly on the periphery. Like, if it's a good year, Democrats maybe have a chance. So I don't think it's a coincidence where he's going. I think he is going to trumpet some victories and try to remind people. But I read that again as, I think we've played Greenland out. Let's declare, cut a deal, declare victory. And we always say this, nobody wants to run in 2026 as a Republican on all of this.
Yeah.
No,
the vice president's going to be on the trail as well. I mean, so
J.D. Vance is in Minnesota tomorrow. So yeah.
Well, let's get to that next. Let's go to Minnesota, because federal prosecutors have subpoenaed Governor Tim Walz and Mayor Jacob Fry. DHS Secretary Kristi Noem said last night on Newsmax that they're about to arrest some of the anti-ICE protesters who crashed that Sunday service. Singled out Don Lemon in particular, saying he could face charges. We talked about this yesterday. I expect he probably will. And we're also learning that the vice president is going to Minnesota tomorrow for a speech and to talk with local leaders. the interesting thing to me about Vance coming in is that it seems like the administration has been turning to him lately to sort of de-escalate situations. Like when I'm thinking about what happened with Renee Good and, the administration's posture right after calling her domestic terrorist. He comes out to the mic, says, this woman could very well have been a good woman who was in the wrong on this specific instance. I mean, like his message was different. What do you think they're trying to do with Vance here, Sean?
Again, I think it's twofold. One, he's a great messenger that they're using, and second, it's good for him to get out there and start, scoring some political chits. That he's campaigning for people. Because I'm sure there's not just a one trip wonder. Like he'll go out. I would imagine he might do something for, one of the candidates or something like that. But
yeah, Michelle Tafoya.
Michelle Tafoya, who just announced. But look, who knows? I think that it's a win-win. He is a great messenger for the administration, and then he also wants to raise his profile a little.
Could this have the opposite?
That's what I was going to say. I mean, look,
escalate it.
The three of us texted about Vance's press conference, and Rachel, you were obviously there in real time.
Yeah.
My reaction was it was bad. Like I thought Vance lost his cool. I thought he started to get really hot, and then he kind of tried, to your point, Rachel, dialed it back. So I think depending on what you were listening for, you kind of heard, you had different takeaways. I will be very curious because I think what's interesting is Minnesota right now, today, is a political loser for Republicans. Okay. Polling bears that out. I think subpoenaing these Democratic leaders is a very dangerous game.
Oh, I was going to ask about that. So what is that just
this is a federal flex. I mean, they also did Keith Ellison, who's the state attorney general, and others. I could see an instance now where if you have a conservative media personality with a cell phone camera at doing an anti-abortion thing and going to an abortion clinic, are you going to now is an administration going to say, we're going to go arrest them? We're going to now go after people. So
just to be clear, the Biden administration did go after people using the FACE Act. I mean, they were horrific.
If you interfere with abortions, but there's no law. If a church door is open, you can walk in.
That's not true. No. It's simply
okay.
not.
Well, we're gonna find out. But if they ask you to leave, that's a different story. But I think I'll be curious what Republicans say. But two, Vance is a dangerous game. I mean, he has at times lost his cool because he knows who the audience is. At the end of the day, it is Trump. He can't seem weak. He has to be in that performative side. I'll be curious. I would think that's a state Sean Vance is targeting in 28. I mean, I would just think today they would say that's a blue state that we want to try to, win and fits his profile.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we talked about his speech. I definitely didn't get the impression that he was losing his cool in that press conference. I thought he could have been a lot hard. I was expecting him to be a lot more of a firebrand, but that's neither.
It's funny. I mean, again, we talked about this at the time. I have a very different impression. I thought he was pitch perfect on that. Losing your cool to me means getting frustrated and flustered, and that wasn't.
His voice got loud.
It wasn't. It was stern. It was like a stern scolding of the media. Yeah. It wasn't like,
Don't forget.
I didn't take it as
first came out.
Regardless.
Let me just for the record, I want to read section 2 of the FACE Act. It says, by force or threat or by physical obstruction, intentionally injures, intimidates, or interferes with attempts to injure, intimidate, or interfere with any person lawfully or seeking to exercise their First Amendment right of religious freedom at a place of religious worship.
All right, we'll revisit that as people get arrested, because I think that's going to be happening in the next 24
Wait, just real
hours.
quick. Don Lemon arrested or not?
Well, we said this yesterday. You both said yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure we're on the same page.
I don't think we did.
I didn't know. Yeah,
we didn't.
Talk about this yesterday?
No, we didn't.
No, I don't know that we said it. Guys. I don't know that we said arrested.
Oh, I said investigated.
All right, let me ask you
investigated. This. Investigated, maybe.
Does
so you think he'll be arrested today? Or sometime.
Or charged.
Who benefits more from this? Republicans or Democrats at the end of the day if they arrest him?
you just like that church thing again, like it's a perfect example of the left overreaching. You start
Here's what I'll tell you. I don't want to get everybody fired up. I don't. Here's
the story changes, the narrative changes. All of a sudden, it's about whether they're overreaching or like I get what you're saying, Sean. Like, but I almost think like you leave it as is, and that's
no. I'm on the team. Just so we're clear.
Yeah.
I think that like what Don Lemon did was wrong, disgusting, potential. But again, as I've said before, perception matters. And so this is not my policy view is, hey, lock the guy up. My personal political view is I think that this thing could backfire if you go out and arrest.
Okay, so we agree on that.
Suddenly, all these people, and remember, I challenged a bunch of folks out there. You realize not one media outlet covered Don Lemon's role. They talked about things. They all let one of their own go. Suddenly, Don Lemon gets arrested, and they're going to make this guy a martyr.
Okay, let's move on. Well, we're going to stay within the topic here because we're 9 days out from a government funding deadline. I just took that from your text, Sean. I didn't do the math. I hope it's right. Anyway, government runs out of money at the end of the month.
I did it too.
Government runs out of money at the end of the month. And on Capitol Hill, some frontline Democrats are squirming about how to vote right now on ICE funding. Punchbowl reported this morning that Democratic leaders expect about 10 House Democrats to vote for this Homeland Security Department bill. They haven't decided whether or not they're going to whip against it. Again, like as somebody who covered this and was like, watching Nancy Pelosi try to tamp down the defund ICE, eliminate ICE, end ICE for so long, it's like, oh my gosh, the world has flipped upside down. But like, that is where the base is, Dan. So like, just talk about this, like this sort of chasm between the frontline Democrats who know this could blow back on them someday, and then what the party is demanding of them right now, which is don't give an inch on this.
Yeah, I first off, I think there will be some who are going to vote for it. It is going to pass. It's not just the 10 that are in there. When you think about the 20 or 30 House seats we're trying to pick up, do you think those candidates are all going to go out and say, we should not fund ICE? This is where Hakeem Jeffries is going to really, and his leadership team are going to have to show their nimbleness and their power, because you need to give these people cover. You cannot throw them all under the bus and all go out there the way, in March with the way Jeffries turned on Schumer and said, basically hung him out to dry. Pelosi would do, you have got to provide the cover to say, we're a big tent. We understand our base. We understand your frustration. If we have power, we're going to look closely at this in the future. But you give those frontliners and those challengers the space to run the race that they need to run to represent their district.
Does it surprise you that they're considering actually whipping? It must surprise you that they're considering whipping their members.
I am surprised.
Yeah.
I am surprised about that.
Sean, quick last thought on the government funding stuff before we move on.
It'll be interesting to see if this thing, like you've got some must pass bills, DHS, DOD, or Department of War. And it'll be interesting to see how this comes down. Everybody assumes it's going to be easy, but I'm not so sure that that's the case.
Let's talk about Halligan's harsh exit. So Attorney General Pam Bondi announced last night that Lindsay Halligan is going to be leaving her job as interim U.S. attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia. A Trump-appointed judge in Richmond actually ruled Tuesday that she could face disciplinary proceedings if she continued to call herself a U.S. attorney. The judge argued, ignores a court order that came down a few months ago saying she cannot do that because she doesn't have Senate confirmation. Sort of plain and simple here. Sean, this is a defeat for the administration that she's now stepping away, and a win for the Senate, whether MAGA likes it or not, right?
So I had a guest from the Article 3 project on probably a few days ago to talk about this. And it's fascinating because politically speaking, I get why there's a lot of folks on the left that love this, whatever. But like, it's really interesting when you actually break down the law on this. There is their interpretation of how the U.S. attorney gets replaced. What they're saying in the Eastern District is you only get one bite at the apple. So when the president put the nominee in that was awaiting Senate confirmation and withdrew that person, then put Lindsay Halligan in, they wasted their one shot. There's no case law that's settled about you only get one interim. right? And that's what the judge is arguing, that I believe you only get one shot, and then the circuit court gets to appoint the replacement. That's unequivocally unsettled. And so I get that this is a short-term political defeat, but there is a bigger legal question about whether the courts have a right to do this. I don't think the administration will fight them on it, but there is, and I know that, like, because we're the party right now that matters, everyone's going, okay, well, you guys lost, but you think about the long-term consequences. Do you really want judges picking who the U.S. attorney is from the executive branch?
Then change the law. I mean, the problem.
No, Dan, that's not the law. That's
Sean,
hold on. Sean, that's not the law. That's the point.
Judges have said the same exact thing, including a Trump appointee.
I'm not.
So, like, I hear you that you're saying, well, there might be an opening, right? Just like there may be an opening about whether Trump could go run a third time. Like, it's possible somebody may end up doing it. But this is where the retribution campaign is starting to hit the wall, which is they're totally trying to run around stuff. And to your point, Rachel, the Senate, the Republican Senate, won't confirm a bunch of these people. So to me, it's just just to be
clear. Just to be clear, if Lindsey goes back up and gets confirmed, then fine.
Totally.
But the way the process works is that you get confirmed, you get announced, and then you can become the interim. What the court is arguing out of Richmond is you only get one interim, and then we get to choose. Right? That's not like. Again, this is not there.
But that's in the law. That's what it says.
No, it's not. It is not the law.
The question is whether you can do it more than once. That's the question.
No. That's an there's nothing in the law that says you only get one.
So you're saying that if they nominate someone else for this position and then he wants that person to serve as the interim U.S.
You could keep doing them. You could keep nominating interims is what Sean's kind of saying.
Correct.
It's an unsettled question.
Correct.
Yeah. Somehow all these judges seem to think is pretty black and white because their language is visceral.
But it's also interesting that people are focusing on, the court here. Sean, you're going off against the courts here, but obviously there's Senate Republicans themselves have upheld this, the blue slip tradition, basically allowing senators.
That's the bigger issue right now.
Yeah, home state. So for those who are not familiar with this, in the Senate, if you have, a senator from a state where someone is nominated to serve, they can object. They can say, even if they're from the other party, like, we don't want this person, give the blue slip, and then that person cannot be confirmed. So it's sort of this old antiquated practice, but Senate Republicans say, if you get rid of it, it hurts us when Democrats are in power. We can't object, and we can't stop liberal judges from being appointed. And so it's interesting.
And that goes to the old southern states wanting to see who those judges were that were going in. It is about power. Members of the Senate, both parties want that power, that the judges and the political players have to kiss their rings and come through them to get an appointment, as opposed to leapfrogging and going directly to, a president or leadership. It's just an old school power play.
Well, and that's just I'm glad we discussed this, because that's the reality. It's not that she can't get confirmed. She would probably be fine. But because of Warner and Kane in Virginia, they won't allow her to get a vote. And Trump's and so that's the bigger and broader issue here.
Yep.
Speaking of Senate Republicans and drawing a line, our next topic, Senator Chuck Grassley. This is really hot on the right now. There's MAGA grassroots organizer Scott Presler has released this letter that he says he got from Senator Grassley's office to a constituent saying that he will not support the SAVE Act. Obviously, this is a bill. Republicans are talking a lot about it right now, requiring proof of citizenship to register to vote. According to this letter, he says, I do not believe that Iowa and other states need politicians in Washington, D.C. dictating and controlling how states run their elections. But before we discuss this, Sean, we should note that Mike Davis, who is an ally of Chuck Grassley, also big in the MAGA sphere, big MAGA influencer type, who worked for, I don't know if he worked for Judiciary.
He was the chief of nominations on Judiciary.
Okay. Yeah, so connections. He's out there saying that this is being misconstrued. He's saying that Grassley is just talking about a Pelosi effort in the past to make it easy for Democrats to, quote, rig the election. So
the law can only apply to one party.
So yeah, I mean, like, what's your take on this, Sean? Like, are they going to vote on this, or does it not have Republican support in the Senate?
I don't think they'll vote on it. I mean, he's not. The committee would have to have it go through first. And
but Davis is saying that this is misconstruing.
of course
the letter
he is. But I mean, with all due, I mean, again, Mike Davis, he was on the show the other day. He's brilliant when it comes to law and everything. But you know, I'll give him a pass. But at some point, then Chuck Grassley needs to come out and say that I'll vote for this version or that version. But this goes back to what we said a minute ago about the president going to Iowa. If you saw him go to war with Susan Collins, can you imagine if he goes to war with Chuck Grassley and says Grassley won't support the SAVE Act and, blah, 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 blah. I mean, that could be a potential that could put that that state in play. So this to me is even bigger than that. It's like you suddenly could get into a pissing match about this whole issue, and suddenly Grassley's in more trouble than he needed to be. So
when is his term up? I don't know off the top of my head. He's not going to run again.
No, it's the open seat for Joni Ernst.
Oh, you're right. You're right.
You're right, Sean. He is a legend in Iowa. You go to war with them, you might win. You might. I mean, he's backed Grassley down before, but it's. Yeah. I mean, look,
this is strike 2 for him, though. Blue slips, right?
Yeah.
And then also.
I mean, here's the thing that people need to know on the right. For years, this was a Democratic-led initiative going back to the Gore versus Bush 2000 race, that the federal government should take over elections.
No, just to be clear, there's a big difference between the federal government taking over elections and having to prove citizenship.
Well, but what you're doing is the states have run their own elections. They determine the rules. They determine your polling places. Everything, right? Go back to 2004. One of the allegations was that in Democratic, parts of Ohio and other places, there was like one voting place within like 100 miles. But in certain Republican areas, there were like 30, right? And the allegation was it was easier to vote in Ohio for Republicans than it was for Democrats. And Democrats were like, we need to have more poll places. We ought to have voting on the weekends, because this was when we were the working class party. It was hard to only vote on one day. You might miss work. So the issue is, it was Republicans led by Mitch McConnell who were always like, this is a state's issue. It is not for the federal government to get involved. I would just say, if you were to pass this, will you guys rue the day that a Democratic Party comes in and says, we're going to have voting for the entire weekend. The people of Greenland and DC are going to get votes.
And I'll tell you this. I will say two things on this. One, if you think about like just post 9/11 last year, we finally implemented Real ID, right? So on driver's licenses, so every state can do this. So by the way, that's requiring states to have to still that we required it with driver's licenses. We said, great, you want to get on a plane, you want to go to a federal building, you need a Real ID. So you still administer it, but here's what you need to do to get the Real ID, and here's what you have to have. Do you want to go to a federal building? You want to go on a past TSA? You have to have it. I'm fine with that. Like, what's the downside in making people prove that they're a citizen? We'll now do it for your car. So you have to, if you want a Real ID, you actually have to go in and do it.
But the states determine their DMV stuff, Sean. It's
sure. No. But my point, Dan, is you still determine all that other stuff. But in order to get a license, you have to use it. What's happened, though, is that on the Democratic side, in state after state, you water it down. So all you need is an ID to get into your pool club and you can vote. And that's ridiculous. Look at what Abigail, and by the way, I will say this because you're absolutely right. But look at what happened in Virginia alone. Democrats got elected. Abigail Spanberger gets up there and gives this big speech about being a moderate, and then spent the entire day and the entire House of Delegates in Virginia figuring out how to move this Commonwealth so far left, it's unrecognizable. So I agree. If Republicans are smart, they start getting ahead of where Democrats are going to go, because the idea the Democrats won't get rid of the filibuster, they won't do all this other stuff, is nuts.
And by the way, I should say that requiring ID to register to vote is pretty popular with voters. I think it's like
it's an 80-something issue.
It's not quite an 80-20, but it's pretty darn popular. Okay, let's go to our final topic. So a number of things percolating for your midterm radar. The first one is that former NFL sideline reporter Michelle Tafoya. Am I saying her name right? Tafoya, by the way, do you guys know who she is?
Yeah. She was Sunday Night Football and longtime NBC sports reporter. Yep.
Gotcha. Very good. So she's going to be launching a bid for Senate today, it sounds like. Punchbowl has some internal DSCC polling, basically Democrats' campaign arm here in Washington, showing that she trails a generic Democrat as of December 47% to 39%. And that would have been before all of this, hubbub with ICE. So I guess the first question here, Dan, how threatened do you think Democrats are because of her?
Look,
her
I think
coming into this race?
It's a tough state for a Republican to win, but she's
Right.
the type of candidate that could potentially do it. Now, we haven't seen her on the stump, so we'll see how she does as a politician when she's getting asked about abortion and ICE and all these things. But look, she is telegenic. She has a great personality, at least as a viewer of, on football, that she's very likable. And she's a woman, which is a higher bar to attack traditionally than a man. So, look, those numbers are not huge. The generic D is under 50%. I think this goes to the Minnesota conversation writ large, which is who wins the narrative battle. Today, Democrats are winning it. I think locally that's true. But, a couple more churches, crashed and protesters smashing windows. And suddenly that state becomes a real challenge. I don't know if Mike Liddell is going to beat Amy Klobuchar, but Michelle Tafoya could perhaps beat a damaged Democratic congressperson. Sure.
Yeah, Sean, Dan made the point in our text thread that if Minnesota looks more like Portland in a few months, things could very much flip. I mean, how serious are Republicans about this? Like, are they going to be putting money behind? They won't be putting money behind her, I would assume. But
look, in any race, you're going to wait and see. To Dan's point, look, there's a lot of people who present well on paper. They were CEO, they were this or that. She's got a great resume. She's, as Dan said, I've interacted with her briefly. She's very telegenic. She's very well spoken. Can she raise money? The problem with a lot of people who've never been in politics before sometimes is they think that because of their resume, they're a great candidate and they don't get the mechanics. No one likes to get on the phone. I've dealt with this over 30 years. They're like, can't just people to give me money and that's not how it works. So I think there's people that are probably very excited she's running. It definitely has the ability to put Minnesota in play in a way that it probably wasn't. So you're going to have a wait and see attitude from the NRSC, which is, let's see what she can do. Can she raise some money? Can she get this thing within the margin of error? And then, we'll come in.
Yeah. I think
the one thing I'll say, by the way, Trump's now sitting on Trump and the RNC collectively are probably well north of $400 million. That gives them the ability to open up new races in a way that they haven't before.
And that's where I would say it's a question of whether Republicans spend money and whether Democrats have to spend money. Because right now, and we're going to, I'll do this for us, Rachel, segue.
Sure,
Alaska, which we've talked about, there's a poll that shows that the Democratic candidate right now is up 2 points. Now, we've talked about this. Alaska is kind of like our New Jersey, where we've been close and a month out, it looks like we may win. And then usually the kind of people come home, so to speak, and Republicans tend to pull it out. We mentioned Iowa earlier. Right now, there's about 5 or 6 states that Democrats would say it's possible that we could win 5 of those 6 and pick up the majority, or 4 of the 6. If you're Republicans, you're looking at Georgia as a place we could maybe knock off a Democrat. You're probably now thinking maybe Minnesota. So whoever has the most money will try to put some states in play to force the other to play defense. That money now that might have to go for a small ad buy in Minnesota in late September could have gone to Maine to try to soften up Susan Collins more. That's the kind of horse trade and tough decisions you have to make. And as a wave builds, that's where you have real problems.
Yeah. If you go and look at where Democrats want to go on offense, you just take 2 of the states, Maine and Alaska. They're cheap dates. Maine has, you think about just being able to do a lot of direct mail and direct voter contact. It's a small state, 2 congressional districts. The one thing that is interesting about Maine is in the 2nd district, Paul LePage, the former governor, is running for an open seat that Jared Golden opened up. So actually that's going to help Susan Collins because it's going to drive up the vote in the 2nd district, which will be helpful for her. But Alaska is a real cheap date. And you can do a lot of money. Mary Peltola won statewide there, that open house seat. So she's a known quantity. She's got a campaign apparatus. She knows how to raise money. Democrats are excited. And to Dan's point, like if you've got an extra $1 million in a lot of states, that's not going to take you very far. In Alaska, it will.
And don't forget, Murkowski and Trump are not BFFs.
Well, so no, the Sullivan seat.
Yeah, no, I know. But the other senator is Like, I think what you're going to have, because Murkowski is popular, is the Democrats going to point to Murkowski and say, yeah, I can work with her. Like, we're in alignment on A, B, C, and D. Sullivan's the outlier for our state. And that is an interesting dynamic.
Yeah.
All right, guys, let's take some questions. We're at 9:20. We got 10 minutes. Let's pull up something from X. Okay, here's what I want to know. The 80-15 issue for presenting ID for voting. What is the position for the 15% that are against it? It's a good question.
Yeah.
Dan, what's the defense against this?
I mean, I think it's the idea of federalizing election processes in states. I mean, we just talked about it. I mean, look, once you set that precedent that the federal government can go in, I mean, I'll just give the example. If the federal government can say, look, you need to have a federally approved ID to vote, fine, I agree with you. It's total common sense. What if the federal government said you must have a polling place within 5 miles of X number of people?
I've heard Democrats.
Can I play that
back against? Go ahead. John.
I'll play the Democrat. This is the 15 are largely minority groups that claim that it's disenfranchising among people.
Oh, yeah.
It's not just yes, that's what I was gonna. That's exactly the point I was bringing up.
It's funny because if you actually go back and look at the first time that Georgia did this, they worked with the NAACP, and voter participation actually went up, and they made it easy to get an ID, which is what I think. Frankly, that's the point. Take that issue off the table. Make it easier for, not when I say easier, but it was sort of, they said, okay, there'll be no cost if you can't afford it. And here are the ways in which we'll help, facilitate. Because people would say, gosh, I have to drive, 50 miles because I live in rural such and such, and I didn't have my paperwork and I have to come back. Again, to me, it's an issue that can be overcome fairly easily. But that's where the major
other voter group that's historically had problems with this, the elderly. Because they don't have driver's license anymore. It always, Sean, in Florida and places, you had elderly groups. I think it was, I don't remember if AARP had problems with some of these initiatives, but to Sean's point, it's about, it's low income people, and they often were people of color who were complaining, and the elderly.
So one point that I would like to make on this, if it's a federal election, then the federal government has a role. They do. They oversee military ballots. The DOD runs that entire operation for all the states. If it's a state election or a local election, they have no role in it. You could, if you want to let a library card get used in a state election, and that's what the law says, that's fine, then that's their prerogative. But the federal government does have a role in federal elections.
Clip that, please, for in 2.5 years.
you can keep it.
Let's bring another question. Okay, Doge finally admitting that they did steal Social Security numbers for nefarious purposes. I saw this headline. I didn't get a chance to read the story, but yes.
Yeah, I don't know if it's that they stole. I mean, that's a little bit of a harsh word, but your point is right, curious observer, that it's like by the way, amongst the hurricane of content here, that there were always one of the pushback allegations was that Elon Musk and people were going, deep into the computer systems and wanting access to certain data, perhaps one, information they shouldn't have access to, and two, what were they truly going to do with this? And was there barriers to prevent this from hopping over into some of these, private enterprises that various people kept roles in, or, in Musk's case, you own companies. It's remarkable. I have no doubt if Democrats win, one of the things they're going to look into is what really happened with Doge. Where did information go? What stuff was put up? And I got a feeling you will have some stories come out that will be headaches for the administration. Frankly, I think they knew it, which is why they started to get Musk out and wind this puppy down. It was out of control. It was totally out of control.
They're going to have so much that they want to investigate. You think they're going to prioritize that, Dan?
Oh, I do. Yeah.
Because I think it's going to go to look, people don't like an out of control government. They don't like out of control government spending. They don't like it when their privacy is violated. They don't like it when kind of rich companies are taking information they're not supposed to have. It's part of a narrative build of out of control, rich guys running around. And if you're trying to soften JD Vance up, he's BFF with Elon. Elon's your daddy putting in $400 million to your race. You don't want to
the
talk
Vance
about what
connection's
Elon
pretty
did
good.
with
The Vance connection, that's smart right there. The politics there. Okay, let's take another one. Question. Clinton appears ready to argue over the subpoenas. Will the DOJ go after him and put him in jail since Garland set the precedent? We've talked a little bit about this on the show.
Great question. Yeah, great. I mean, I'll just say, look, this is a tough look for the Democratic Party because we've been so out front now on Epstein because of the politics of this. Like, it's just been so easy. It's really hard to turn around now. And I get what the Clintons are trying to do. Hey, we'll testify via video. We'll, a written letter, which of course they're allowing almost everyone else to do. But the politics of this is so good for Republicans. I never thought the Clintons would actually show up and testify. I am beginning to wonder now what happened. I think there will be Democrats who will vote to hold them in contempt.
Look, a congressional subpoena is a congressional subpoena.
Yeah, I agree.
Plain and simple. You might not like the fact that the Republicans have decided to enforce them for the Clintons and not enforce them for other people. It's political. Absolutely, it's political. Congressional oversight is always political. Guess what? Congress gets to choose. Like, they get to choose. Like, the Clinton people came after me a few days ago when I was tweeting about this, when they didn't show up. I mean, we've talked about this. Go talk to Steve Bannon. I mean, like, I would be shocked if the administration didn't take this up and do something with it, a la what the Democrats did to Steve Bannon. So, I mean, what's good for the goose is good for the gander, right, Dan? We say it all the time.
And this is tailor-made for the modern media environment. I mean, because it's hard to rally the defenses when you're turning around and arguing the same exact thing in the opposite direction, or, as you say, against Republicans just less than a year ago or more than a year ago.
So I thought Ro Khanna the other day was interesting how he answered it, because he said, hey, look, I wouldn't have gone after I mean, like, you either have to go three directions. One is you have to say it's different, which is ridiculous. Two is I thought that was handled poorly, Bannon and Navarro. Or three, I think they should. And I think what James Comer, the chair of the Oversight Committee, is doing right now is putting pressure on Democrats to say, you voted for this. How do you not do it? I would be surprised that the Clintons don't try to cut a deal where they come in and say, we'll do it off camera. I mean, like, I think that they have to realize, and this is, Dan has said this before, but like, I don't think that enough members have the Clintons back or care enough anymore. Like, they're not out there like, we got you, Bill. So they'll throw him. And I think that the Clintons, think what you will, they're not stupid politically. And they're going to go, if we don't have the votes, we might want to cut a deal.
Sean, let me ask you and Rachel this. If you were the Clintons, and let's say it ultimately comes to, okay, we're going to have to do this, right? We have to testify. Do you want it closed or open?
Closed.
No,
do you?
Open.
I was going to say, because
think about Benghazi. I remember when I was like a baby reporter covering the Benghazi thing, her one big ask was that she wanted it to be in public, right? I think the Republicans didn't
it backfired. Remember, she sat for 8 hours, didn't go to the bathroom. It was like trending, like free Hillary. And there was
some blowback on Republicans on that. But yeah, I think she'll want to do it in public. Or both of them.
But it has to be both,
actually, right?
It would have to be both.
Yeah,
it'll be interesting to see, because they are smart politically, and they got a lot of friends still around town.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Sean, what you got coming up today?
Okay. I may regret this.
Oh no.
All right. Whenever you start, here's a tease.
Yeah. 2 years. I've never started a show that way. Tonight, it's 3-on-1. 3 Democrats against me, Dan. Mike Nellis, the former chief counsel of the House Judiciary Committee.
Yeah.
Yep.
He's no shrinking violet. Yep.
No, I know. Yesemi, Ed Bawal, you know her. She was the chief of staff of the Biden press office.
Yeah.
And then Bhatia, who is technically a Democrat. So that's
all right. Hold on. This is it's
2.5.
Yeah.
Bhatia are friends. So
we're gonna go down issue by issue, find out where these differences are. Well, I mean, one of my things, I got it on there. Should Clinton testify? What should voter ID? All these things that we talk about. We're gonna have a real discussion, 3-on-1. About whether or not whether there's any common ground on any of these issues. Healthcare,
Do you have a steel cage around the Sean Spicer show, or do you just have like some gloves that you're just, you know,
I have
do a few party pumps to loosen up your muscles before the show here?
We're going to be doing a lot of like, also I've got like a YouTube playlist. I mean, a Spotify playlist ready to go.
All right.
I'm going to get pumped up.
Rocky music.
Let's get ready to huddle. All right.
Let's get ready to huddle. But I'm crazy excited about this. Maybe I shouldn't be, but we'll see.
I think one of tomorrow's 5, maybe let's recap Sean's show.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's look at the bruises.
Best hits on Sean. There you go.
All right.
Perfect. All right, guys. We will be back tomorrow at 8:30. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks.